Welcome back to another episode of the BambooSZN podcast. I'm your host, sober wellness coach Dorian Warmsley. This podcast is sponsored by Massage Envy here in Las Vegas. Also, if you're thinking about starting your sobriety journey and you don't know where to start, you need a guide. I have created a 30-day sobriety and fitness ebook for you to help you step by step to begin your journey towards becoming your best self. I'll put the link in the description of this podcast so you can go and grab yours today. And this podcast is also sponsored by Dorian Warmsley Wellness, a coaching business created to help you build a strong body and clear mind through sobriety and fitness. Now, today is the first time ever having two guests at one time. Oh, yes. So I have back a great dear friend of mine, Devonte Woodson. He is the co-founder of Greater Youth Sports, a local nonprofit organization helping the youth get free and affordable sports to keep them active and keep them uplifted. And also I have Marissa Hawkins. She is the owner of 10 Massage Envy franchises here in Las Vegas. They have an exclusive event coming up, and we're just going to talk about some great things happening in the community and things that need to be happening in the community. Welcome, both beautiful people.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
So, Marissa, if you can tell us, we'll start with Devonte. Devonte, if you could tell us who you are and who you help.
Yeah, so my name is Devonte Woodson, aka the Coach Woodson.
The coach.
Yep. So founder of Greater Youth Sports. So we make youth sports accessible for all children. So we have a program that works after school with elementary schools, impacting over 3,000 kids a year. We provide flag football, basketball, soccer, track, cheer. So if you have any kids and you already know sports are expensive, we're the ones that make it affordable and also get all the good things like life skill development, confidence, all that good stuff in there too.
That's amazing. I've seen the work you've done. I've been at your events. I've seen all the stuff you do. It's always something going on. I think it's beautiful because I've expressed to you before, when I was a kid and we were homeless and couldn't afford anything, it was a program like yours that helped me play ice hockey for free for 2-3 years. And that was like an escape from the traumatic life of not having a dad and not having somewhere stable to live. So shout out to you for doing that for the kids here in Las Vegas. And then Miss Marissa Hawkins, you own 10 Massage Envies here in Las Vegas.
Well, 7 here and 3 in Reno.
Preach. Go ahead.
Yes. So we'd had this
Or
opportunity.
who you are and what you do, or who you help.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes. My name is Marissa Hawkins. And am I looking at you or am
You're
I
looking at me, talking to me.
Okay, fine. All right.
If you want to look at the camera, you can.
No,
It's
I
up to you.
don't. And actually, this is more comfortable. So, so my husband and I opened our very first franchise 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yes, I was 29 years old. We signed contract when I was 28, and I opened it when I was 29 years old. This past Monday would make it 20 years. And we were clinic number 32, and now there's close to 1,100 locations nationwide.
Wow.
We're in all but one state. And then we
What
grew
state? Alaska?
Wyoming.
What? Damn,
Yeah,
Yellowstone?
Wyoming.
They don't want massages out there?
I know. Don't ask me why.
Okay.
However, we grew from 1, and then last year we recently picked up. There was an acquisition, and we picked up 3 in Reno. We got asked by corporate if we would like to, expand, and I didn't know if we were gonna, do it. But my husband was like full steam ahead. I'm like, oh. So I thought I was going to retire soon, but apparently there's more work to be done. And so this is the reason why I'm here today, is to celebrate our 20-year anniversary, but celebrate it in a big way, because it's not just about us. It's about other people. And so this is an opportunity for us to give back. And, my heart is always full when I have the opportunity to be able to figure out who's the next, organization we can get involved with. And it was just so fitting how this came together. And I am so lucky because I'm small business.
Yeah.
So to be able to focus on a nonprofit that's also trying to, get light to be shed upon them, I am super excited because that's what I do. I love helping the underdogs. I love, knowing that it's because of small businesses and small organizations that things really do get to happen in a big way. We start off small, but we we go big, right? And so for me, it's all about helping the children. And I have 3 kids myself. So this is the reason why it's meaningful. My daughter played soccer, which is why we're going to be giving soccer balls this year. And really partnering. Anything we do, we like to collaborate with like-minded businesses, like-minded community leaders, and just getting ourselves out there. So for you to have us on this podcast today, Dorian, means a lot because we want to spread the word. It's not about celebrating just Massage Envy. It's about celebrating our community and all of the people that live here in Las Vegas and Henderson. Our business actually originated in Henderson. That was the clinic that, where we started everything and grew memberships because people are stressed out.
Yep.
People, from physical to mental, all that type of stress, is built up in all of us. And so here we are as an organization, both organizations, just trying to help our youth out, help our community of young adults, as well as our community of aging adults as well, really stay young and taking care of their bodies. And so it was only fitting that we were in alignment with the Greater Youth Sports Association to do this big project.
Something you said that was very, I don't know the word to use. I'm just trying to act smart, but yeah, I'm trying to think of a real, let me give my little gem. But you said, helping the underdog, and you started off with 1.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have 10.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other businesses and things you and your husband do, and you're able to give back now. And maybe you do it or not know, but that's the theme of the podcast is BambooSZN, the story of bamboo. You plant the seed of bamboo, you trust that it's going to grow. You don't know when.
No.
You know what I mean? But you still do the work that's needed to keep it growing underground. It's getting rooted. And then before you know it, year 5, year 3, it hits the surface. And then the next few weeks, it's just overflowing. And that's what you're doing now.
Exactly.
Your business exploded. Now you're overflowing all that abundance to somebody like Greater Youth Sports.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, bow.
Yes, exactly. And, as an entrepreneur, they always say, 3 to 5 years before you even see any profit in a business. And so honestly, I feel as small business, you do a lot, and you don't seek any reward for it. You just put in the work and, action speaks louder than words. And over time, you start, developing good relationships. You start, growing your people, then growing your business. And then once your business grows and you see how can you help outside of the community, because now you're starting to grow. And you're growing because of the support of the community. You're growing because people are supporting you as a business, supporting your people, and, providing those paychecks. So, it's only fitting that we do our part in society to give back. And so
you make a good point about that. And I think, I don't know why, maybe social media or what, but the fact that more people understand the importance of giving back or being within the community.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be something big and gradual. You don't always have to record yourself doing it also, but giving, I can't explain. It's just like, maybe because I came from that to where we were homeless and we had to get our stuff from charities and nonprofits to help us. That's why I feel a need. I ain't no multimillionaire. And I used to think I had to be super rich or have all this money to want to do it.
No.
Until I started doing it myself, I was like, just do it. Start small. Like, you don't have to do this crazy grandiose event. You can literally host a boot camp and raise a couple $100 or $1,000. That money's going to help, but also the exposure.
Right.
Because when you go to these events, I'm sure you guys both know, you don't know who's in that room because
And
the people with the money and
Yeah.
a certain portion of money they have to, give away to nonprofits, they're going to be there. And now you're making just connections you never expected.
That is so true. And I think the most rewarding part about it is those connections. It's easy to write a check for most people who have, the means to be able to do it. But it's another thing to connect on a level where you get to see those smiles of those kids' faces. You get to see the teachers, take a break for a hot minute because, a community leader is, coming in to explain to kids the importance of reading, the importance of physical fitness, the importance of kindness. It doesn't take much, but, if you can once a year, and this is the reason why I'm here, to promote the Greater Youth Sports Association and get other community leaders to come out of their hole, because we get so, and I'm subject to this. I have been, where we stay in our bubble, where we stay, in the grind, and we're just running our businesses and forgetting about life, we're forgetting about what we belong to, and we belong to the greater universe, and
Greater universe, greater sports.
Yeah, exactly. And, and the message here is that, listen, I can promote all day long, the 20-year anniversary for Massage Envy, but that's not the premise of why I'm here. The premise of why I'm here is to make sure that we focus on what's important for our future, and that's the kids. So
back to what you were saying just now of the importance of teaching them obviously sports, but emotional health and all these things. Devonte, the great thing about your program is it ain't just kids coming and playing sports, having fun.
Right.
I was shocked when I went, and it was the middle school maybe 2 years ago now, where you had a whole curriculum, not just sports, but you're teaching them how to regulate their emotions, how to feel them, how to be better leaders, how to treat their parents. Touch a little bit on why you felt that was important and what it is outside of sports you teach your kids within your curriculum.
Yeah, I'll go from the coaching standpoint. So I've been coaching since I was 18, right? So moved to Vegas, had a master's in teaching and all that, and I started coaching at a charter school. And I had a high school varsity basketball team, and I had probably 2 or 3 students in there that could drop 30 points a game. Like, they were good. One was like windmilling, juniors, seniors, right? So I'm like, oh, man. And this is like the summer, so going into the season, I'm like, oh, we're about to be good, right? Season rolls around, and I look at our bench, and we almost couldn't play a game because all of our kids were ineligible, right? So their grades, they're getting in fights, and it was just a lot of just different things happening to where these kids had an opportunity of a lifetime where a year or so they can be getting, sponsorships, going to college, getting everything, set for them and their families. But it's like, man, they're not even able to even play in the season. So at that same time, I was a PE teacher at an elementary school, and I was like, okay, I see where the disconnect is because they're not learning all these life skills at an early age. I played basketball growing up, and one of my coaches, he really made an emphasis on like, hey, we have tutoring hour. We didn't really have like the lessons and stuff to the degree that we do it, but he did like read us like John Wooden, Phil Jackson, like different script, like books and quotes and stuff like that. So when we were creating our program, I was like, we got to make an emphasis. Like, you hear all the time where it's like, oh, sports increases kids' confidence. Sports, it teaches their leadership skills, but I don't really remember having a lesson that we actually sat and did, right? So when we were creating our curriculum, like, we sat down, looked at the research first and seeing like, okay, what are the strategies and interventions that we can do and implement in this like 30 minutes that we have where the kids are like sitting down before their practice. So to your point, yeah, we do confidence lesson, emotional regulation. We teach the kids belly breathing to control their stress. And it's just every single week is a different lesson. Yeah.
And that's beautiful because that's things I never knew that I needed or how to figure out until now as an older adult in my 30s of how to be aware of your emotions, how to regulate them. That's probably why I was acting out as a kid, stealing and off topic, but I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know why this memory came to my head, but I remember in 5th grade, I broke into somebody's house and stole their Xbox. And the kid was in my class.
Wow.
And not in your class.
Yeah, so I had to go back to school. The cops called, my mom called me, it was like, hey, the cops are saying you did X, Y, and Z. You need to bring it back now. And I was just, I don't know what I was doing. And I took it back. I was in like 5th grade. And then I had to go back to school, and this kid was in my class.
Oh my
so I'm like,
gosh, that's awkward.
I don't know what I was doing as a youth, but it was a part of the environment I was in.
Right.
Everybody in the area was very, low income area. Most kids had the same situation, single mother, and we're all just out there doing. We didn't have it, so we went to go get it somehow, some way.
Right.
Going 99-cent store, stealing lighters and earrings.
You got the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
You got the energy to do it. You just gotta,
by any means
I like
necessary.
that go get about you.
By any means necessary.
Yeah.
But you live and you learn, and I would never do it again because I've been to jail and I do not want to go back.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little about how you guys cross paths because Massage Envy, Greater Youth Sports. How do you guys cross paths?
Well, I was working with another nonprofit, and I won't mention the name, but it didn't work out.
Okay.
We wanted to do jump rope, jump for your heart kind of thing, right? But when it didn't work out in January, I had to pivot and figure out, okay, if we can't partner with this one, we'll figure it out. So I ended up calling a girlfriend, Julie Kane.
Shout out to Julie Kane.
Shout out to Julie Kane. Thank
Yes.
you. She's very big, in nonprofits. I knew she would be the answer that I needed to pivot to the next, organization. And sure enough, she was. She's like, I know the perfect person who you need to talk to. So she did a three-way text to Devonte and myself, and I ended up connecting with Devonte, letting him know what I wanted to do. And it was so seamless and effortless that I thought to myself, why didn't I go this route to begin with? It's because we're misinformed. It's because we don't, if you're not advertised or marketed correctly, or if you don't know, your community well, then you don't know what you don't know, right? And when we partnered with Shalimar for U.S. vets, because my husband, is in the military,
nice.
I made sure that I actually vetted it out. And I went to the organizations to check out what they were doing before I committed to partnering with anyone. And so because I trusted Julie Kane's word, and because they've done events previously with them, plus I looked them up on, we got information now at our disposal. So, and just, his presence on the phone, and you can tell his passion. And he says, I've done this before, trust me. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, because it sounds so
give me
fun.
the weekend.
Right. It's exactly what he
Typical
said. He
weekend.
was so quick. And, I like to do business like that. I like to hurry, make the decision. And, if it feels good, it's that gut feeling. And it was a really good feeling to know that we were going to have not only, fun, because fun's my middle name, we're going to have fun, but it was about connecting with the kids and knowing that it was going to go to a deserving school, a Title I school at that, where, access to these types of equipments is not always readily available. So I am, like I said, my daughter played soccer, and her coaches were pretty good, and she got a lot of valuable lessons. But you're right, Devonte. It shouldn't just go to people who can afford it. We need to be able to have every child have access to sports, and my business is in alignment with health and wellness. So I have to stand for what my business stands for. And that's making sure that, everyone who comes in through our doors is getting a great, healthy facial or healthy massage. But, outside of that, there are teachers that are coming into our locations.
yeah.
There's doctors, there's lawyers, there's, the car wash guy, there's students, all walks of life, that are stressed to the high capacity. And so how do we as human beings, fill our cup so that it runneth over? And I think that the key element that's missing is that we need to give back. It's taking care of ourselves, but doing something for other people. I am very lucky that the ethos of our brand is health and wellness, and that I get to be a big part of it. There are so many great stories that come behind our doors through our, team members that I get the opportunity to hear about, and when they know that as a business owner that we stand for more than just the service that we provide at our locations, that we are also doing something for the community, it makes them feel a part of something bigger than themselves too.
And one thing I wanted to say, I'm going to start off in the beginning with, I'm going to word this. I hope it doesn't come off the wrong way towards Devonte. But one thing I was thinking about with a lot of my connections with people is that what I appreciate about you is that you are a low maintenance friend. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not like you're low maintenance.
No, yeah.
But like me and you don't talk every day.
Yeah.
There's times we didn't talk for weeks, months, maybe half a year. But whenever there's an opportunity or something you need help with, it's a text, hey D, I got this opportunity if you want to try, boom. I'm like, hell yeah. Or vice versa. And I love that about you and other people who I have that same relationship with, because
easy.
I think some people they take things so personal when you're not talking every day. Or I'm like, bro, people got lives. Like you have a wife, you have a kid, you have a spouse, you got businesses, people have lives.
Overthinking things.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. And I was just thinking about it when you had reached out to me about this. I'm like, we like I said, we don't talk every day, we don't see each other, but when we do, it's like I just saw you last week.
Right.
You know what I mean? The
I feel like I was
conversation.
just here.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the conversation is always flowing, it's always uplifting, it's never no BS drama, gossip. It's always like, what's the next move? What you got going on? How can I help you get to the next level? Or I need your help doing this.
Right.
And I think part of that goes to, I can't speak for you, but just the character I've shown him. And I think that's what's important people to understand, is that your character speaks volumes more than your title, your whoever you think you might be.
Yeah.
Because if you knew who I am, what I stand on, when I text him out of nowhere asking, hey man, I got this event, can I use your space? He was more than willing to do it. And it wasn't like, because some people can reach out only because they want something.
Yeah.
But their character isn't all that. So you're like, oh, I see what you on, bro. You just opportunist in a sense.
I always tell this to our teams, long before a title was ever given to me, the work was always proven. So I never really had to ask for certain positions or things that, I wanted, because it's all about who you're being. And it's what you attract, because, if you are always wanting to help other people and you're always at the end saying, how can I serve you? Or what do you need? How can I help you? they will remember that tenfold. And they're gonna the more they're gonna want to help you when you need something. You know what I mean? And that's the law of reciprocation, isn't it? It's all about, like I scratch your back, you scratch mine, but never really wanting something initially up front. But later on, like, oh, you know what? I've been working with this person and I can actually call them. It's about having those resources now when you do need them. And that's like beautiful.
What I learned was just doing things, and we talked about it in our first episode. What episode was that? We go way back, right?
At least 4 or 5 months ago.
It was like doing things without expecting
expectations,
anything in return, right? And that's how we kind of met, where you came, did an event, and then I think we had like a middle school, the speaking event. I was like, hey, boom, boom, boom. End up getting like a little stipend for you two to come out.
I'll tell that story quick. So I reached out to him. I met him. I wanted to do a charity event. I reached out to an organization. They were like, hey, we got this company with sports, Devonte Woodson, Grady Youth Sports. I reached out to him. I put together a dodgeball event. We raised some money. It was a great event. I think it was fire. We need to do it again. But it was fun. Then once we met on the phone and talked, we got to understand we have similar interests of being speakers and uplifting people. Eric Thomas, we both loved him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good. When he said that to me, I was like, oh, this is my dude. Like somehow, some way, I'm staying connected with this man. And fast forward, less than a year later, he reaches out to me like, hey, I want you to come speak to these kids. If you're available, tell your story. It'll be like 10 minutes, X, Y, and Z. I'm like, yeah. Then he was like, oh, it's going to be paid. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Paid.
Oh, my God. I love that.
I was willing to do it for free.
Yeah.
But that's the point we're all making.
Full assembly of kids.
I literally was just trying to offer my services and help him reach what he needed. And without me even asking, I always came as a thought of, all right, I'm going to get you in a position to practice your speaking. Yeah. But also, you're going to get a check.
And can I tell you, those kids, they tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So when you speak to the kids, it's like not only practice, it's like hardcore reality that they're telling you the truth, and you need to listen to them because, they're innocent. So what they're telling you, you don't really take to, heart, but you should, because they are so real and so raw. And I do a lot of speaking of the kids, from elementary to middle school to high school to actually even Lee Business School, about entrepreneurship. But it's so rewarding to see the kids because they've got a lot of things going on in their minds. They've got so much.
Let me tell you this story real quick.
Yeah.
So I was helping him with an event. It was flag football. It was maybe 2 years ago now. And I'm there. I'm just throwing the football with the kids and, having fun. And one of the kids like, oh, you look like my uncle. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Cool. I'm kind of like feeling myself like, all right, I'm your uncle. So I'm like, well, where's he at? And he was like, oh, he died. I'm like, oh. And then he told me how he died. Like he was like, yeah, the cartel killed him.
Oh my.
And I'm just sitting there like, what do I say or do?
Yeah.
And he starts crying. Then another little kid comes up and was like, what's going on? And I tell him like, oh, his uncle died. And he's like, oh, mine died too, man. Come here. And embraced him. They walked off hugging. It was crazy to watch. In that moment, I realized like what Devonte is doing for these kids is so big that we don't even know it.
My heart is like,
because
oh my gosh.
That right there is, his life is chaos.
Yeah.
Right there. That football is
so
helping
true.
him relax, have fun, meet other kids, and feel connected. Like it's bigger than them just throwing football around.
Right. No, it's
we don't
not.
know that people need to understand the impact that those sports and what he's doing. I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes I'm curious and reason why. I'm not saying you need to be blown up all over the world. We should. But I feel like when I talk to people and stuff and I tell them about the organization, they're like, I never heard of it. I'm surprised.
Everyone, I'm like, you know what? This
Forget
has
the
to
Boys
change.
and Girls Club.
Yes, this
No
has to
disrespect.
change. We need to change the trajectory of where, we need to put some of our assets when it comes to resources for the kids, because it's got to be about the kids.
Yeah.
But when I went to the Doris Reed and to do the reading week, when I left, I said, kids, I'm going to be back here. Great news. We're going to be giving, our company's going to be celebrating a big, celebration. And you guys are going to be the recipients of, soccer balls. One kid came after I was done, reading the book, came up to me and said, Mrs. Hawkins. I was like, yes. He said, can you please remind me, what day are you going to be here again? I said, why? He's like, I really need that soccer ball. And I told Devonte about that. And I told the kid, I was like, listen, you can't miss a day of school, but I will be here on April 24th. It's very important for you to stay in school, but I don't want you to just come just because you're going to be getting the soccer ball. I need you to stay in school to read. I need you to learn everything you can learn, because because that's going to take you so much further, okay? And he says, okay. But you know what? That the teacher had told me that some of these kids go from home to home. They don't have a steady place to live. So they're living on someone's couch. And they're 5th grade. I mean, they shouldn't have to have that responsibility. And as a matter of fact, I read a book. It was about money. So I asked the kids, what do we need money for? So the 2nd graders said one thing. And what did they say? They said, oh, to buy shoes and to buy food. The 3rd grader said to pay taxes and to pay bills. I was like, 3rd graders know about taxes and bills? Yeah. And then, of course, 5th grade, I didn't read that book. But, you know, there's a big difference level in, you know, like what kids actually know. They know more than you can actually, you know, that you even think. And so that behavioral health thing is so crucial to get them at an early age, because even as early as age 5, they don't know how to deal with their emotions. Yeah. And so I get that, because I've actually spoken at Boys Town, Nevada. Boys Town, Nevada. Yeah, Boys Town. They asked me to talk to the people who were helping the kids, because they were stressed out, because they're dealing with all those emotions. And oftentimes they're not properly trained on how to deal with those emotions. They feel sad for the child, but they don't know how to deal with a child that's like screaming, or a child that's like quiet, or a child that's just not knowing how to talk about what's going on at home, having that person open up. And so I didn't know all the parts of, you know, the nonprofit, but I really love that you included it, because it's absolutely necessary. And the reason why we came together is when he said, let me come up with the plan, we added to the plan. So we did the physical health portion with the soccer balls. So we got CSN, who's coming on board, the College of Southern Nevada.
Tell us about we didn't get to talk fully about the event yet, but like, what is the event you got going on, the dates?
He came up with it.
Yeah, so Snap. Yeah, so it's been on my head for like 5 years, right? So we were originally going to do it COVID, the Saturday. Remember the Saturday that the city shut down was our first Spring into Fitness event. So we didn't do it, right? But luckily, I mean, you know, got to pivot or whatever. But the reason why we wanted to do the event originally was because some kids aren't into sports. And, you know, we know just from looking at the stats and the data and everything, like right now, 23% of kids stay physically active for 60 minutes a day, right? It's only 23%. Wow. So the others, like 77 that are not doing it. So about almost close to 8 out of 10 kids you'll see in a classroom are not even meeting the recommendations of staying active, right? So sports included or not, we got to do just a better job of just making it more fun. Accessibility is a huge thing. And that was the creation of the event. I was like, we got to have some type of something where we can go in and get kids excited about being healthy, right? So the 3 components, we have the physical fitness, the mental health, and then also the social health, right? So this event kind of brings everything together in one day, and we go to the kids. So we're going to a Title I elementary school and really just bringing, you know, community partners and stuff, so they can see that. CCSD is going to be involved. Yeah, yes. So and I'll let you talk about that. But those are the 3 components where these kids are going to come to this event. They're getting prizes. They're leaving home with like soccer balls, plans to actually stay physically fit as well. And it's around the 3 components, around physical fitness, mental health, and then social.
Yes. So when he told me that he needed someone, so I brought in a lot of people. Yeah. Because I feel like when you do these events, you bring in people from the community so they can get more involved, so they can hands-on experience what it's like to actually see the kids, to feel the environment. I mean, there's nothing more rewarding, like I keep saying, than to actually experience it firsthand. So I brought in CSN because we couldn't bring in one of the professional ones here, but we're going to in an upcoming events, because someone asked, is this an annual thing? And I pondered that. I'm like, let's see how this one go. Maybe we could do this. And so the physical fitness portion is that we are going to have soccer players from College of Southern Nevada. Oh my gosh, College of Southern Nevada. They're coming in, 5 boys, 5 girls. They're going to teach the kids how to do tricks with a soccer ball. The mental health portion is I brought in a girlfriend. She owns a business called Mind Feel Motion. She should have been here today, but she couldn't make it. Leticia Escamilla.
I know her.
Do you? This is such a small world.
I met her I'm in the National Speaker Association.
Okay.
And she is too.
She won that one.
Yeah,
yes.
so we're there. I
yes.
lost them.
I
All right,
know.
well, thanks.
But this is great. That's
But no,
good
yeah, I
that
met her
you're
through
in it.
there. Yeah.
So I asked her, I was like, hey, there is
Wow.
something that I would love for you to be a part of. And she said yes right away. And it was about teaching these kids how to do deep breath work, meditation to calm their minds, teaching them, and that would be another part of the station. Then the last part, Devonte says, we're going to do a relay race, and we're going to partner these kids with someone they normally wouldn't partner with to build on their socialism. And I thought, this is wonderful because it's interactive. And more importantly, we're touching on 3 things that are meaningful, for these kids to have. Physical fitness, because we're going in on April 22nd at their assembly at 9 o'clock.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about physical fitness,
So it's
educating
like educating,
Yep.
educate, inspire.
Yep.
And then so like the education part, we're having an assembly for the 3rd to 5th graders where we're talking about the 3 components. Hey, what is this? These are examples that you can do, right? Yeah. And then they're leaving home with a fitness card, like their fitness plan.
Oh, wow.
Where between the 2 to 3 days, between the assembly to the event, they're filling that out with their parents, so it's getting their families active and stuff, supporting them as well, which is huge for the long-term kind of development, right?
Yeah.
So when like parents, there's a lot of studies around that where parents exercising with their kids or doing things with their kids, the students want to keep doing it, right? So they're going home with that, and then they bring it back to the assembly, to the event, and then they can win like different prizes, like we have bikes and different things like that, where they can actually win it by turning that plan in as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah, kind of incentivizing it.
Yeah. Got to get them somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we talked about Letitia, but then I actually got more people involved. So I was doing a speaking event for SCORE, and US Bank had called me in to talk about the path through entrepreneurship. So I did, and then afterwards they said, you know what, thank you so much for being here, to help us with this event. I'm like, not a problem. And I spoke about this event that was coming on board, and they said, we would like to help you. So we want to give coloring books to, fill your bags, and some little, I think, soccer ball paraphernalias from US Bank. Thought that was wonderful. At this point, we didn't have bags yet, so Anthem, Medicaid, basically said, we'll donate bags and water bottles. I'm like, wow, this is wonderful, because I obviously needed water bottles because Devonte had mentioned that you wouldn't believe this, Marissa, but they don't even have a water bottle to put water in, the little minimal things that they need to, obviously play sport. And we live in the desert, so we need those water bottles because 120 degrees, a kid will play all day and forget about
literally
obviously drinking, right? Because they're excited, right?
Yeah.
I was one of those kids, actually. So
Me too. I used to play
relate.
for hours in the summer and go
Right.
get Dr. Pepper.
Luckily, we had the
But I didn't live
fountains.
here in Vegas. I lived in Seattle, so the
Sorry.
heat is detrimental,
Yeah.
right? So when I spoke to our friend David, who I still need to introduce you to, he's like, I want to get involved.
Who's David?
David works for Anthem. Anthem Medicaid, Blue Cross Blue Shield, I believe.
Okay.
And so we got that. And then the soccer balls come in, and my daughter's soccer, coach said, I would like to help. Have me come in. I can teach the kids tricks. He now has a daughter, so now he knows what it's like to be a parent, and all these things. He's like, I want to donate a portion of the soccer balls in honor of my twin daughters' names, Iris and Azara. He named one of the girls after Buenos Aires because that's where she was obviously conception. But nonetheless, this is what I mean about when you talk about a thing that you're doing that's good for the community, there are more people that want to get involved. They just don't know how.
Yeah.
And so when you do something like this, it is very important to have them come to the event and not just, write a check.
Not just write a check,
Yes,
1,000%.
come. Because when they see these types of things happening and, like I said, feel the energy of the kids, it's a different ball game. They want to get involved again. And so we're touching on 3 things: physical health, mental health, and social health. But another aspect is obviously shedding light on Greater Youth Sports Association, but getting volunteers. And there are a lot of great people within the community that just don't know how to get involved. And so this is the reason why we're here today, is to teach them how they can get involved with the Greater Youth Sports Association, either through their website, getting to know Devonte, giving him a call. Because I made a simple call and he made this such a great event for me. It's been fun, and so far, I didn't ask all these people who wanted to get involved. They said, let me help you. And it was, again, because of who and what I did for them. And I didn't ask them to. I just said, hey, if any of you want to.
Right.
And they're like, we want to.
So let's get into a little of your story and backdrop. Because now you said you started with one massage envy location. Now you grew to 10.
Yeah.
What was the mindset or thought process behind purchasing that first one?
I have 3 kids.
Or actually, hold on real quick.
Yes.
Before you even do that, what were you doing before that?
I was doing pharmaceutical sales.
Okay.
So I was working for a Japanese-based company, and even prior to that. So for almost 7 years, I was working in corporate America. And then, with acquisitions and mergers, when those happen, now they want one person to do a 2-person job. So now my territory grew from Vegas to Arizona. So 1 week out of the month, I was leaving my baby back home, and it hurt me so much. Like, there's got to be something better that is going to give me time with my kids, because that was always my priority. And so my husband and I talked about it. What could we do that would allow us to give us flexibility to be there? Because as these kids are growing up, what was important to us was to be there for them. Be there for their sports activity, be there for, PTA meetings and things that they needed, us to be there for, a play. And so I literally remember I said, something's got to give. And I don't know how many times I've told this story, but something did give, and you know how you guys been to Arizona, right? It's 10 degrees hotter than Vegas.
Right.
Well, I was driving 4 hours from Vegas to Arizona once a month to go call on doctors there. And so 1 week out of the month, I was leaving my baby behind. And my 2 boys. And my husband would have to take care of everything, or we would have a babysitter. So 1 week, one day, I basically, on a ride to Arizona, I said, something's got to give. And the thing that did give was the car AC. And so I was still nursing my baby at the time. And literally what happened was, my back was soaking wet, because if you turned the AC on, hot air was blowing. If you rolled the window down, hot air was blowing, right? So there was no relief. So I called my cousin up. I said, listen, I need you to recommend me a great place to eat, because I'm hangry. And I need a great place to obviously get a massage, because my back is killing me from this long drive. And of course, my milk came in, my back is wet. It was just a miserable day. And I said, I'm not working today. I am just not working at all. Right. So I remember her recommending me a great place to eat. And I remember her also recommending me to a place, my cousin, she said, you need to try out this place called Massage Envy. And I heard a lot from the moms at the school that they love it. It's on the radio, it's on television. It's only $29.99 for a 1-hour massage. Like, listen, I want a nice massage, and I'm willing to pay. I don't want to go to a school, because that's what my husband and I did. We could afford going to the schools, the 2-for-1s, and, and so we were getting massages at these places, for really great deals. And granted, you didn't have a private room, you had curtains and things like that, but it was cheap. It was a 2-for-1. Right. So what ended up happening is I went and got some food, and I also went to a place called Massage Envy. And originally they couldn't get me in at one place, but they got me in at the Scottsdale 101 location, and that was my very first Massage Envy that I ever entered. And I remember, coming in, and I was, not the nicest of person. I was like literally grumpy. I was upset. I'm like signing this paperwork. I'm like, I just want to go back and relax. And so I go in for my very first massage at Massage Envy. And I remember coming out a new woman. I was like, wow, that was the best. I feel so rejuvenated. It's like working out. You know how that high that you get, that euphoric high after getting a great workout? Well, that's what I felt when I got that massage. And I thought, man, this is great, because I never experienced a massage like that before. Yeah. So I said, listen, my husband and I are coming back a week later back here to check on a rental property. I'd like you to book him with my massage therapist, and I'm willing to try someone else, because that's what we women do. We give our husbands the better, of the two. So anyways, a week later comes by, and we're driving into Arizona, and I make mention to my husband. I said, we had been talking about things, and I remember we were talking about a business, and I said, listen, we're going to this place, and there was a business that, we could possibly open up. This one seems like it would be a viable one. But you know what? Think about it. When you go in, you tell me what you think, and we'll, talk about it then. So I think nothing of it after that conversation. It's a 4-hour drive. We go in. He gets his massage. I get my massage. I come out before him. And what I thought wasn't going to be a better massage because obviously I gave him my person was even better than the first. I'm like, how could this be? This never really happens, right? So, and then he now comes out, top of the hour, lots of people coming out. People are, phones ringing, people are coming in, people are coming out. And my husband's asking, and I'm asking, I'll sign up if you guys are going to have one in Vegas. And his thing was, if you guys are going to open up in Vegas, how do we find out more information about it? And the lady who happened to be there on that day happened to be the owner.
Oh, wow.
So she basically said, if you are interested in opening up in Vegas, and if I may, I would recommend you to pick up one of those brochures right behind you to find out about franchise opportunities and call a gentleman by the name of Steve Cook. So we grabbed the pamphlet. We basically leave out of there, and we ended up calling Steve Cook a week later, and we ended up meeting with him. And I don't know what he saw in us. We broke bread together, and literally over lunch, I don't know, he liked us enough to say if we wanted to partner with him on the first Massage Envy that was opening in Vegas.
If I'm not mistaken, is he the one might have been connected with Orange Theory?
I don't know. He's passed away now since then. So, but perhaps I don't think so. But the CEO, yes, there was a gentleman who basically opened a Massage Envy, but he did not create Massage Envy. He just was a part of the Massage Envy brand, and then branched off to open Orange Theory. Yes, so there is a tie between the gentleman who opened it. And,
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it's humble beginnings. It really really puts life into perspective about entrepreneurship and taking that big risk.
With you opening the first one and then you've now got 10 locations, was there ever a moment where you or your husband thought like, we can't do this? Or
I was the one more than him because here we are. He did real estate. My paycheck was the steady paycheck that we were relying on for medical benefits for our 3 children. And granted, I had an 8-year-old, a 3-year-old, and 1.5-year-old. So 2 boys and a girl. And the reason why I wanted to jump into entrepreneurship is because our 3rd child was it. That was it. We're not having any more kids. And she was a girl. Like, I can't leave her with anybody. She's, girls, we're more protective with our daughters. Don't get me wrong, I love my boys, but that 3rd child really, did it for me. So, I had to quit my job, and I literally was making hourly, and I was literally trying to figure out, well, how's this going to work? How are we going to be able to make ends meet and provide for our families and provide for the people who I went into recruitment day to say that I'm going to be able to put food on the table for them and their families. It's a big risk, and there's a lot of people counting on you. You wear so many hats when you become an entrepreneur. Overnight after I quit my job, I was a marketing director, I was a recruiter, I was a plumber, I was a front desk associate, I was, I was everything. And then on top of that, you still got to go home and cook for your babies, help them with their homework, and still be a wife, at the end of the day. So, you know what? That's stuff sometimes people don't think about when you jump into, the world of
working for yourself, it sounds great.
Yeah.
I get my own schedule. I get to do this. And I talk about this, all other entrepreneurs, it's all the same thing. Like, it is great, but it's like, it ain't that easy.
No.
You got to, like you just mentioned, you got to be your own marketer, your own recruiter, your own person taking care of the finances, unless you figure it out sooner, and the doubt comes in, the imposter syndrome comes in, maybe even some comparisons, looking around, I see other businesses like, damn, how come mine's not popping like that, or how come mine's not? And I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, I think it's amazing and great, as opposed to having to answer somebody, work for somebody, be not valued and appreciated the way I feel like I should. With you, and you're from Seattle. You are of Filipino descent. Are you from the Philippines?
So my parents are from the Philippines, 100%. And my mom's from Binmali, Pangasinan, and my father's from Ilocosur. So he's Ilocano and Pangasinan. So I
learned. What is that?
It's a dialect.
Oh, dialect.
Yes,
okay.
There's a dialect and also a province in the Philippines. And so I learned a lot from my immigrant grandparents moving here, the language, the culture, like everything about it. And I am very lucky to be, a representation for people who look like me,
talk that
stuff. Being young, opening the business before I was 30, being a mother, a wife, and just being a woman and being of minority descent. People's level of expectation was that, oh yeah, she should run and open a massage parlor because she's Oriental. Okay, so
didn't think
and
about
what
that.
happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So there are a lot of illegal activity happening, and as you guys know, right?
Well, I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah. So of course I get into a business that obviously has that stigmatism to it. And so when people were coming in, they're like, are you the massage therapist? I'm like, lovely. Lovely. So then I would call my guy from the back. I'm like, Tim, there's a guy that needs a great massage. You think you can handle him? Because honestly, it was tough in the beginning, and you are running a truly wholesome, legitimate place of business is what you want to represent out there. I'm a mom, and I'm running a business I know nothing about. Like, I am taking this big risk to open a franchise. I have no business experience, no business acumen at the moment. All I have is a big heart, and I do care, about people. And so long before I knew my style of leadership, it was always servant-based. And so I think that's what led me to be able to be here today to celebrate 20 years, because I never even fathomed, getting past the 3 or 5 year mark, and now we're in the 20-year mark. So yeah, there's a lot to celebrate.
Had no idea about the business. You just knew it was a good massage.
Yeah.
What made you believe you can make it happen?
My husband and Steve Cook were my
Really?
two biggest cheerleaders. My husband has been my biggest fan.
And you guys been married how long?
30. We've been together for 35 years.
Okay.
And we have been married for 32.
Wow.
So we got married when
Damn,
I was
I'm 33.
18 and he was 19. Yes.
Y'all got together in 1990.
Yes, he didn't know this, but I always said whoever my first boyfriend was going to be, he's going to be the one that's going to be with me forever. Forever.
Little did he know.
Little did he know. And he's like, you trapped me. I was like, what? But, it's been good because we have, what I'm weak at, he's strong at. And what I'm strong at, he's weak at, So it
Yin
really
yang, if
is
you
the
will.
yin and yang. And I do believe in opposite attraction, and it lasting a little bit longer. And I could be wrong, what do I know? But my sister also is married to her middle school sweetheart. So it's kind of runs in the family. And my mom and dad have been married. They celebrated their 50-year anniversary this year.
Wow.
So I'm turning
Runs in the
50.
family.
Yeah, I'm turning 50 and, I'm writing a book and we're celebrating 20 years. And my parents have, celebrated their 50-year anniversary. So if you do the math, something's definitely not calculating there. But I am obviously, I am a product of, their love. And quite frankly, I've always led with love. And that's the type of leadership that I think it takes to run a business.
What have you done or read or anything to help you improve your leadership that you would advise to other entrepreneurs who are in that spot to where they're trying to become better leaders or better business people? What did you do to help you?
Earlier on, I read a book by Michael E. Gerber, E-Myth. That was a great book, and I've spoken about that, at the college level, because I got asked to talk at an economics class, and I could not believe they asked me, of all people, I'm not an economics major, but they wanted me to talk about the difference between the Depression and recession. I'm like, seriously? I'm like, okay, I'm up for the challenge. So I went for it. Brought my husband in because he brought in the real estate, game, because he was, doing real estate. And I talked about my experience of running the business and how it affected us. And I got to read a little bit about the Depression and how that came to be. So I kind of mirrored it together. But I just remember at the end of it all these students coming after, like, what book did you read? Can you tell me about this? Because I want to run my business on my, I want to run my business. I'm like, oh my gosh, this was so great. And I really thought I couldn't offer them anything. Yeah. And there's a lot of times where we all have self-doubt and we don't realize our gift and what we can offer the world. And despite how many people tell me, oh, you're so successful and all this stuff, sometimes it just doesn't resonate, And I know there's those imposter syndromes that people all go through. We all do. But at the end of the day, I can actually say I walk the walk and talk the talk. And so I can really help people. And I now take it to heart when a young girl comes to me and like, you're such an inspiration. And when I hear that, I start believing it even more now and more so than I ever did before. Because here I am, I didn't have a business degree. I only had a heart that led me to where I am today. And so I'm very grateful.
When you say that, it's crazy. A thought that came to mind was I think sometimes we can get tied up and caught up in trying to prove ourselves to our peers and others as opposed to try to prove ourselves of who we used to be.
It's different now. You know, they
You know what
say
I
when
mean?
you hit those pivotal steps, milestones, because I'm turning 50,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't care anymore what people think. At the end of the day, all I care about is that, you know, my kids are healthy. I'm healthy, that I am, you know, being authentically me, and, you know, that my kids are happy, healthy, and helpful. And, you know, because I'm doing what I'm doing out in the community, they will see, you know, what representation means to be a good human being out there in society. So that hopefully they can, you know, follow, you know, their passions and their, you know, helpfulness, you know, out in the community and really be, you know, a young adult in society giving back.
And Devonte,
Yeah.
for you, with Greater Youth Sports, you've been doing it now. You think it should come out in 8 years? What do you need, or what do you think people can do to help get more exposure, to get more support? Because to me, from what I know, you got it going. It's going. You know, you're doing it. But obviously, more help would be greater with certain things, financial or just people showing up to volunteer. What are some things you would need for your organization to thrive more?
Yeah. I would say it's allowing people to come and give what they can. So whether that's, hey, I can't do anything financially, but in like your case, you've never, I mean, you created events that donated it back, right? That was your specialty. You're already in motion doing that. Like, hey, I can do this for you guys, and then boom, boom, boom. Have other individuals where they'll just come out and be like, hey, I want to be an assistant coach. I used to play soccer, and let me come out and help out 1 or 2 days a week for an hour, right? Other individuals like yourself or community leaders, and they're like, hey, let's do this together, and now we can raise awareness and we can bring other people on and good exposure, right? So I always say, go to our website, you know, definitely shoot an email, the info email. My number's not on there. You know, I don't have my number on there. But go to the website, shoot us the email, and just like, hey, I just want to get involved. And then from there, we can work and see. We have so many different things. We have 3 events coming up. That same week of the Spring of Defenders, I was just talking to Coach D. I was like, we have 3 events that week, you know. So we have a cheer showcase coming up with the Raiderettes, a free elementary track meet for 4th to 5th graders, you know, the largest track meet for elementaries that we hosted. So that's coming up in May. Our club stuff with our facility, you know, we have club teams going every single day. So there's so many different ways that you can get involved, where just go to our website, greateryouthsports.org, and then just shoot us an email, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, and like once again, I'll say this again and again, just what you're doing is just phenomenal, man. I can't get over it sometimes. When I think, I'm like, bro, you're literally doing what I'm not gonna say more people should be doing, but it's just like you're doing something very impactful. It's wild. Like I said earlier, being somebody who came from that environment, and that Coach Dave, man, shout out to Coach Dave in Anaheim, California. A random old white man came up to me, introduced me to hockey, and that changed. Go Ducks, matter of fact. I'm not a Knights fan.
Now it's the national, like for years we've played around with going to other states and everything, but now we kind of figured out the model that we're going to take to other states and school districts. So it's coming.
And the benefit of the youth sports is lowering the rate of the obesity and overweight situations happening in the world.
Right.
It's very sad and unfortunate, but statistics are showing now like over 50% of adults are going to be obese or overweight, and then kids are even higher now.
Right.
And sometimes it is due to lack of physical activity or access to physical activity.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, my mom couldn't even afford something to Boys and Girls Club sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's like what you're doing is changing the generation of certain families and people. And I just
That's
wish.
the thing that we get asked all the time is like, okay, are you guys just a league or what? Like, to be specific, like we're after school sports sports program, right? So, and that was strategic to partner directly with elementary schools to meet kids where they're at. Because a lot of times, there's Boys and Girls Clubs, but I can't remember the exact number, but that's millions of dollars to build enough Boys and Girls Clubs to hit every single corner in Las Vegas or any city you're in, right? So meeting the kids where they're at by having it after school is very important, right? That school is like a safe haven. The kids go there for equipment, for food a lot of the times, right? For everything at the school. So the more we can do with the school is super important. So we're just an extension of that kind of school environment, right? And that was strategically like, hey, we got to meet them where they're at, you know?
And I think that's the reason why CCSD is coming, because when they do the book bus, you know, they basically took a bus that it was a dilapidated bus, and they just made it, you know, full of books, and they decorated it. So basically, I guess companies can sponsor the books. And Finley, like the big car places have done that, Subaru, I think. But they're coming because I believe want to see how does this actually, how can this play a role in all the other schools? Because Doris Reed got selected to get the book bus 1 year, but they can't do it again because they want to give opportunity for other schools to, take place. So obviously Doris Reed is near and dear to you because you're there planted. But there are other schools that if they get this for the first time, I can only imagine what it would do to, like, are we doing this again next year, or something to look forward to? Do you remember when we were in school, when we knew, something was coming, we looked forward to that certain event.
Right.
So we can make this be a regular thing for kids to be able to look forward to. It would give them, another avenue to like stretch their, horizons, their imagination, and what they could be when they get older, or what they could do. Or obviously staying fit is like the core value of what you stand for and what you're trying to get these kids to, obviously get into. And it's a progressive movement because not only do we need the kids to be involved, we need the parents to be involved as well.
Yeah.
And so quite frankly, getting the parents involved, like you said, is a crucial part. It's a thing that keeps them together because we all have to be a part of something that we belong to together. And when we all come to unite, it really helps give them purpose because they don't feel like they're in this alone. And I think that's the thing, despite our world getting better at everything getting easier, that we still are experiencing a high number of mental health issues. And, the world is getting faster, better, and greater, and yet we're still suffering as human beings.
What do you think, as I'm thinking about it, what do you think could be done, this is just your opinion, with the parents who are in that position of struggle financially, all these things, like them taking their kid to greater youth sports, and that's helping them, right? Obviously, their kids getting access to sports. But how do we get the parents out of that position? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I only speak for myself, was on welfare. My mom was selling drugs, doing what she had to do to provide for me. But I'm always wondering, like, man, I wonder if there was ever any type of resource for her to help her to get out of that. Because what happens is that kid will stay in that cycle that parent is in.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't choose to want different, I would have stayed in the same cycle of doing just enough to make it, getting myself on government assistance, and then my kids, and then it would have been a remaining cycle.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but if you meet some people this day, they're probably in that position because their parents were on the welfare and this and that. Nothing wrong with the welfare. I think it's needed.
Yeah.
But it's like, what do we do to help those parents break free and get out of that cycle so that they can elevate and then change their trajectory? Do you think, in your opinion, no right or wrong answer?
I would say exposure, and because there's a lot of resources available, to just help different people no matter where you're at, but you don't know what you don't know, so one of the points that we like to make with our events, like I mentioned, the parent thing, right? It's always exposing them to different things. So like, hey, parents, come to this event, and while you're here, here's the U.S. Bank and different people where you can ask them questions directly to her, like different things like that. Even at like our tournaments and stuff, we bring different vendors out. Like I had real estate people come to our banquet the other time where they're talking about how to buy a house and just different things like that with credit and stuff like that. So I think it's just education and exposure to just try to like, hey, these resources are here, and it's coming from a trusted person. Like you see the founder, I'm here right with the kids. Your kids are in our program, and these are the people that help me. So let them help you.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, having a booth on mental health, we don't talk about it much. And I was with a girlfriend who had a daughter that was actually going through a psychiatrist. And back in the day, we didn't talk about if we were going to a shrink. That was a taboo. That was a no-no. That means you were crazy. But now it's a thing. People are able to use, if they can't talk to their teachers or they can't talk to their, parents, they have, now that's available through insurance that's paid for, psychiatrists that kids can talk to get their emotions out, to be able to help them get through stressful times, teenagers in particular, that are able to talk about their emotions more freely than as a 5-year-old cannot, deliver that same message. But having that available. And I know it's definitely hard. I would, can't say I can speak to that, but I know it exists, where, a parent, is addicted to drugs and you can't get them out of that zone. It's a choice they make, right? But it's a choice that you have to be able to say, okay, today I'm making a choice to be there with my child. I'm making a choice to give that up. It's it's an addiction. I used to work in pharmaceutical sales. I definitely know that it exists. But, you know, exposure, like you said, is definitely a thing. And sometimes the kids, you know, coming home excited when a parent sees, you know, the excitement, what did they do in school today? Mom, I learned this, you know, getting them like, even the little thing of like, can we do a walk today? You know, can we, you know, like showing them what they learned in school. We learned this, you know, gets that parent really like, that's pretty interesting. They say, yeah, Mom, this, you know, I learned this. And if we just walk for 20 minutes a day, that can lower your blood pressure, you know, things like that every night. But it also is a bonding moment for the kid too, to be able to talk to the parent. Like walking is just a simple thing, you know. If you're overweight, it doesn't matter. Everyone walks. You know what I mean?
I hope so.
Right? We would hope at least at minimum, right? And we're not even asking. It's baby steps,
Yeah.
you know, 5-10 minutes, things like that nature.
We'll wrap up here in a second. I
Yep.
want to ask you a question. What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self, fresh out of high school?
You know what? I was at church on Sunday, and I loved what my priest had to say, and it was actually in the Bible. And I think it's on the Bible. He says, you know, Jesus gives us mercy and grace. Why don't you give yourself mercy and grace? And that resonated with me. I think as human beings, we're very hard on ourselves, you know, and I think sometimes we forget that, you know, as human beings, you know, we don't have to always be here, you know, we can be where we are and still be content and be happy with what we have and be happy and healthy, you know what I mean? So, you know, until you can get to this point, because everybody wants to make their millions and billions and whatever floats your boat, whatever it is, just don't be so rough on yourself, you know, when you don't get there when you are expecting it to be, you know, happen. I think that's the thing, is give yourself grace.
What about you, D? What would you advice you give your 18-year-old self, fresh out of high school?
Ooh, fresh out of high school? Snap. I don't know, but I'll give you a quote.
That was the next question.
Fresh out of high school, I was on point. I was like, you know, I started coaching like right there when I went to school. And for me, graduating high school was like everything. Like I was the first one in my family to, you know, go to college, you know, much less graduate with a master's, right? So I was like, I made it, you know?
Yeah.
But a quote to end everything is, when we stand together for the youth, we all win. So that's our motto at Greater Youth Sports. And this is literally an example of it, where if someone does something, if everyone does something, no one has to do everything, right? Where
I like
the
that.
different community partners coming together, standing for our youth. And at the end of the day, you help kids grow up to be who they need to be. Then they can go and do the same thing. And then that's why we're here, you know? So,
Yeah, it's fire.
and that's how we all win.
Yeah, we
Marissa,
need to care.
do you have a quote you live by? Besides, and that was a great verse for your 18-year-old self. But what about a quote for yourself that you've heard or that you live by, and why?
Yes, I think there was one by Zig Ziglar.
Ooh, my favorite. One of my
yes,
favorites.
let me pull it up for you because
All
I
right.
don't have.
We'll go to
you
commercial
caught me
break.
off guard, and so
So,
No.
you put me on the plum. As she's looking for her quote, I wanted to let you know, coming up Sunday, April 27th, Strong Body, Clear Mind Wellness Workshop. My birthday is on the 17th. This is how I'm celebrating my birthday. My birthday is April 17th, and this year I'm celebrating by bringing you a wellness workshop to help you grow as a person, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Everybody's welcome to this event, Sunday, April 27th, in person and virtual. We'll be doing raffle giveaways, herbal tea, meditation, all the good stuff, good laughs. Now back to regular scheduled programming. Marissa, what is a quote you live by and why?
okay, it says you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. So I think that just is in alignment with what I've done, you know, with stepping into entrepreneurship. And then after stepping into entrepreneurship, learning about what our business can do, you know, to help our communities, you know, and using it as a platform to give back has been very beneficial because I've met great people like yourselves and, you know, have collaborated with like-minded people who also got other people to get involved. So, and that's how you become great. You start off small and you start.
You plant that seed, baby, like bamboo.
Yeah.
D, this
it
camera
grow.
here, let us know about the event, where they can get all the information.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the event's happening on April 24th. It's the Spring into Fitness event. If you want to get connected with our organization, go to greateryouthsports.org. Again, that's greateryouthsports.org. or you can go on any social media, Instagram, Facebook, X or whatever, Greater Youth Sports. So see you guys soon.
All right. Thank you both for making time today. You guys shared great information. Thank you, Marissa, for sharing your knowledge, opening up a little about your story, and everything you're doing is amazing. I think we need more entrepreneurs, small business, big business, all businesses to start connecting with people outside their bubble. That was fire that you said that, because we do tend to stay within our what we're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And it's like you need to get out there, find new people, new connections. That way you spread that web of greatness to all over the world.
Yes.
I'm gonna leave you guys with a word as always. This one is fire. I've been thinking about this one.
Oh.
So there's a street, right, called Zizix. What is that?
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, so we know the street, right?
You looked it up, huh?
But it's fake. It's a made up name. It doesn't mean nothing or anything. And the point I'm making is you can't allow titles and names and labels to define who you are. It's made up. You got to let your character speak for you. Your character's going to speak volumes. So be a good person, have integrity, treat people right, and just give your all. Be nice to the world. 2 words, keep growing. Ooh.